And I don't recall if I made a video. I don't think I did. This 1972 Seth Thomas clock, I replaced the movement in it. It's been several years now, maybe 3-4 years, but it would either be running too fast or too slow, and I finally got it dialed in where it's fairly accurate. So this thing's been running great. I took it to a clock shop and they said it cost about $500 to redo the movement. So I went and bought one off eBay for $300 and did it myself and have a good working clock again. And here's a look at the movement I put in it. It's identical to the original one. And that little screw sticking out horizontally is the speed control. Now I finally got it dialed in. The original movement I had in here cross-referenced to this one. I don't see a date code on it anywhere, but it works. So that's good enough for me. Try to capture a chime. There's the date code of 7207. Here we go. I just bent this note up a little bit. Seemed like it was bouncing a little too much, not sounding just right, so we'll see what it sounds like here in 15 minutes. Oh yeah, adjusting that one note made a world of difference. That sounds a lot better. Here's a look at the 1976 Seth Thomas grandfather clock. It's still working well. It had a glitch a couple weeks ago. I wind it up every Friday, and I had noticed the outer two weights were still up, and then of course the weight that drives the clock mechanism was all the way down, and I thought, what the heck? I don't know what caused it, but what I did to remedy the situation, let's open it up. I flipped this up and flipped it back down, and it went through a chime sequence, so I guess it got jammed up somehow, but it hasn't done it since. And this right here, if you flip it up, it stops the whole clock. I don't know if that's supposed to be that way, but ever since I can remember, that's how it's been, so it's got to be how it is. We'll come back here in just a second and catch a chime. I always thought it looked cool to see that minute hand inch up. And the 1913 Seth Thomas is still working beautifully. And the 1980s cuckoo clock is still working. Kind of gets annoying sometimes, but oh well. The music box does not work, and that's why its weight's all the way to the top. That's been disabled.
It's 1:31 p.m. It's 1:29 p.m.
Those need to be synced. Unfortunately, this one is not working. So, no clue how I'm going to get that repaired. But I'm sure I'll figure out something. This one's still working since I put the new movement in it. The bathroom clock is still working just fine. Here's one I don't know if I've ever shown before. Pretty cool looking old clock. I put a new movement in it several years back. Maybe 2017 or 2018. The bird clock still keeps time, but it doesn't make bird sounds on the hour anymore. Hasn't in several years. The old Sunbeam kitchen clock from the 80s, still working perfectly. Been here for many years. Actually got replaced one time and that clock failed, and this one came back in here. The lighthouse clock is keeping time, but the lighthouse doesn't do its thing on the hour. The movement died in it, so I replaced it with a continuous sweep movement. I kind of like those. I like the smooth sweep as opposed to the ticking. So once they die, I just pop one of those in and go on. And here's an interesting clock. At the first of the month it goes on 1 and it rolls along throughout the month. Don't know where it came from or how old it is, but it's pretty cool. And this little clock's in the dining room. I found it in a drawer one day, put a battery in it, and it works. So I just set it up here because we didn't have a clock in the dining room, so now we do. And this Springfield Precise Time, I've had it in here since 2011, and it just works fine. This belonged to my late grandfather. He had it in his office. Same one where I got the 76 Seth Thomas and the 72 Seth Thomas clocks. The Equity alarm clock has been just happily working with no problems here. Ever since I did that demonstration, it's been keeping great time. This is also another clock that I replaced the movement in. At the same time I did the clock in the den, the ship clock. This one used to hang in there until we got that one. And this room didn't have a clock at the time, so I moved that one in here. This one here is from around 1982, 83, somewhere in that range. Overall, it works pretty well. The day of the week does not advance anymore, but the day of the month does. So I'll need to take that apart and see what's going on there. Otherwise, it's been a great clock. Still the original movement. This was at my grandparents' house in the bedroom I used to stay in when I went to visit. So I was glad I got to get this clock. I've had this since 1999 when the house was sold. This 1983 Microna alarm clock is still doing its thing. I've had this since 83 or 84, probably early 84. This one I don't believe I've ever done a video on. I got this in 1990. It needs some work, but it does still keep time. Pretty cool piece. Let's see if the neon works at least. Oh yeah. And the GC 1000 Heath most accurate clock from 1984 is working wonderfully. Still running nice and cool since I did the power supply upgrade several years back. I think 2014 or 15. I have a video about it. Here's one I've also not done a video about, the Howard Miller, which is the same exact circuitry as this one. And it's also a projector, as is this one. This one, the alarm just randomly goes off, so I don't have batteries in it right now. But it does work. And here is my daily driver alarm clock, the Sony Dream Machine. I got this as a graduation present from my grandmother back in 1995 when I graduated high school. That one there, it works. It was one of those work Christmas gift exchanges from many years ago. I just don't use it that much. It runs real hot, so I don't like to leave it plugged in. But this one, I don't think I've made a video of this one either, so that's some upcoming videos of clocks, alarm clocks. I've got some out in the shed, 3 or 4 that I need to take a look at as well. And the homemade clock is doing well, still keeps great time. This has been in service since 1990, so August 25th, 1990, so we're coming up on 30 years.